Hey Queen, so we are one episode away from the season finale. I know if you follow Curly Chicken on Twitter, she did tweet out that this week's episode was the last episode of the season, which I originally thought as well because of what they said on Hacking Robot. And I did, of course, I mentioned this before, I thought like the two extra episodes that we got this season that were added on was like the two-part premiere. That's what I thought. I'm pretty sure that's what Curly Chicken thought as well. So we were both wrong on that. September 14th is not the finale, and I know I said this in the first recap or the second episode recap. I had said that, so this one a while back that we didn't really know. So again, I think the 22nd is next Wednesday or the 21st. I don't truly remember. But again, we do see the return of American Horror Story season 6, and on the 20th, Scream Queens will air again. If you're kind of wondering why this has anything to do with this Mr. Robot thing, that is because Mac Quayle is the composer for Mr. Robot. He did win an Emmy, so if you do follow him on Twitter or anything, please send out a congratulations to Mac Quayle because, he and Sam Esmail, put all the music in and everything like that, so that's why we have amazing music in Mr. Robot. And aside from that, I will, as always, link stuff down below. There was a little sequence that we do see that I will try to link down below, as well as something else. And more or less, if you follow Mr. Robot on Twitter, you will see that some things are kind of in sync with the show, and anything that happens, they kind of drop little Easter eggs and such, and there's a little decrypting kind of thing that was left for us. But again, we'll get into this episode, and this is episode 2.9 Python Part 1 again. The ending and the premiere were two parts, and this is episode 11, so episode 12 again next Wednesday is the finale, and that is it until season 3. Hopefully it comes early June, so I don't get stuck in this little rut, so to speak, where I'm trying to do my schoolwork for my sophomore year of college, as well trying to film this and anything else, and then South by Southwest in the spring. Hopefully I'm still able to go. But I just have a lot of work, so I'm kind of oof. So let's get into this again. Episode 2.9 Python Part 1, and this is episode 11, Who is Mr. Robot? So we open with, the end of the world, the bailout. We see previous parts of episodes or the first season. We see Rose and Price. We see Angela. She was talking to Price, and she was at that place where they're like, oh, you work at E-Corp, right? And then we see her in the subway, and then we see Dom, and we see everything, with Mr. Robot when he was saying that they were overheating and such. And then we do see the shooting, which was kind of the biggest cliffhanger of last week's episode, and kind of why Dom is in, whoa stage. And that was basically almost like a repeat of when the Dark Army shot up, the FBI center when they had gotten back and stuff. When she was going down the escalators and she saw them going up, and she kind of, looked at them. It's basically the Dark Army that shot up the FBI. The Dark Army shot up that restaurant. Why? Again, probably because they leaked, well, not truly leaked, but they put Cisco's picture out there, the sketch, so they kind of knew who they were looking for, Dark Army. But we go into Elliot, and he's lying down, and he's kind of mentioning how Angela's right about everything, that you truly can't win against Evil Corp. And then he's also talking about Mr. Robot and everything like this, and how the key to this is basically some kind of thing that it was rooted back when he was a kid, and this visual objective or basic test that he was talking about, and that is basically kind of, I would assume, a extreme version of lucid dreaming, because he does touch upon lucid dreaming, but of course with him, since he has this split personality and some kind of crazy anarchist, I guess, I wouldn't say perspective, but what I mean with Mr. Robot and hacking and all this stuff. And he says basically, mind awake, body asleep, mind awake, body asleep, mind awake, body asleep. And he kind of says that over and over, and that kind of forces him into a lucid dream. So if you've never heard about lucid dreaming, I know lucid dreaming has some things to do with kind of an extreme night terror. So it's kind of your body is asleep, but you're not, you're awake and stuff like this. And sometimes people see shadow people. I know it has stuff to do with the paranormal, but of course with Mr. Robot, it's something different, it's a mental illness, I suppose. And then we go and see Joanna and her baby, and her little hitman, driver, chauffeur, all-in-one guy you can hire for your 5'9" needs. He basically came back from when he found out where Tyrell was with Elliot, when Elliot cracked the code, and shows him the location and stuff. And then Joanna kind of mentions that of all gifts Tyrell has ever given her, this is the greatest that she's received. she talked about how there were some CZ earrings in the previous episode, and then she wanted them so bad, and even though they're not real diamonds or anything, like, it's just something that I guess meant a lot to her. It just held so much meaning because Tyrell actually, like, did whatever to get them, and obviously he did kill someone in the first season. But, you know, aside from that, Tyrell was a good person to Joanna and everything like this. And then we see Angela, and she's in the back of a car, and she's like, "Are you not going to tell me, like, you can't do this and stuff like this?" And she wants her phone back, and she's kind of fiddling around, you know, to see, like, hey, maybe I can get out of the car. And it kind of reminded me of that movie, or that girl was, like, abducted. It's with Halle Berry. I think it's, like, I want to say Missed Call, but I know that's not what it is, but if you know what I mean. And then she mentions how she's not the only one with files, and that they're probably everywhere. And the files she's talking about is the ones that she stole when she went in that one episode to be like, hey, I have all these files, you know. She was talking about Flint and everything. And they're kind of walking her down a dark hallway, and they're like, oh, you know, like, you work for E-Corp and stuff. And she's just like, how do you know? And everything like this. And it was very shady. And she could have died. She could have been held hostage. Who would have known what really would have happened to her if she would have kept walking? But basically, that's kind of what her thing is. And she does say that a lot of people would know that she's missing and stuff like this. And by that, I'm pretty sure she means Price. Where she's working at now, obviously fsociety, like Elliot, Darlene, and them, like, they're like, oh no, like, you know, we're missing Malala and, like, Jack Black, and someone got shot, we might as well look for Angela. And obviously, since Elliot was so close to Angela, he would more or less go looking for her and stuff like this, and Darlene would be like, oh my gosh, you know, like, the Dark Army is cleaning house if she's still not dead, or whatever, you know? And then they just raise the volume in the car, and they kind of just don't really pay attention to Angela. But we go to Dom, and she's at the hospital, and the doctor's like, you're in shock. And she's like, I know, it's you, and basically the way I'm being treated by you and stuff like this. And she just wants to be back out in the field because, again, she is very dedicated. She's very passionate to this 5-9, you know, mission of hers to just solve everything. And it seems to me that she is the Angela of the FBI. How Angela is trying to find out all this information about, you know, like the cancer and everything going back to her mom and Elliot's dad, you know, like their parents. Kind of seems Dom is doing the same, and like, who did this 5-9 attack? Who was involved? And she also did try to help Angela, and she kind of told her that this was going to happen, you know? Like, she was like, they're going to track you down, and they're probably just going to pull you off the street, and they won't be helpful and whatever. And Dom was offering her, I don't know the word would be, like, I think asylum would be the word, but, you know, basically security and safety. And that's, I guess, what she really wants to do. And they asked to talk alone, and she's kind of just sitting there like, you know, whatever. And then this guy's like, you know, I can't leave and stuff. And they tell him, yes, you can. So Dom and he can, you know, talk together. And they say that they're going to force her to leave if she can't really, I guess, contain herself and everything. Because it seems as if she's going on all these different tangents, and she may be putting not only herself but others in danger, obviously. But then again, she says that I told you not to release that sketch of Cisco because she knew the Dark Army was going to come. And that's why she says it probably was the Dark Army. And she's, again, going into how far does it go up? You know, she's like, we need some kind of lockdown. We probably have a leak in the FBI. And, you know, that's always something. I mean, even in the movie with Sofia Vergara and Reese Witherspoon, Hot Pursuit, there's, like, a rat in the FBI, I believe, and stuff like this. So that is kind of what she's touching upon and everything like that. And then she says, this is kind of like a matter of national security, and like, we got to let these people know. And she's like, it's probably an act of war. And then she talks about all these things basically going off, and the guy is like, you know what, I agree with you. Like, I'm not trying to shut you down or anything, but there was $2 trillion that were just given, which she doesn't know about because obviously she was getting shot at, blah, 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 etc., and she's at the hospital. And he says how the U.S. and China, you know, had this bailout, and basically China bailed out E-Corp, and we all know who that was, Price, with his little, like, deals, like they say. And basically that deal was to solve, like, the global crisis. You know, everyone is feeling the repercussions of ending debt and stuff, but I guess it was a lot more than they thought and such like that. And then they mentioned how there's more to the shooting than they probably even think, you know, like, they're like, you know, the government is probably a part of it, like the Chinese government, etc., and stuff like this. And she says that she can't let them get away and stuff. And then he basically tells her that it's the miracle money. The U.S. is waiting on that. The U.S. needed money because cash is just worthless. It's nothing. It kind of reminds me of, I want to say, Germany, I think was after the Holocaust, you know, World War II, I could be wrong, where basically their money was nothing. And they were just burning money to stay warm, etc., etc. Because I think they had like a collapse or something after they lost and stuff. And then again, he tells her, like, you know what, I'm on your side. But we have to find a way to tread carefully because, again, this second time Dom has been in that situation where she's been shot at and basically face to face with the Dark Army. She almost caught one of them twice. Suicide. She'll never know what they know, etc., etc. But pretty sure she has like a hunch that they're going to be back. There's going to be another shootout. She may be involved. She may be dead next time. Someone else, maybe that guy will be dead. Who knows? But Dom knows that something is up. And then she kind of asks to be promised the interview and stuff, and he says, like, it can wait, like, a couple hours or whatever. And then we go, and this lady looks back at Angela in the car and everything like this. And there's a Davy Crockett song playing, and then there's a black guy also, and there's this garage that they go into, and the guy kind of walks in, and Angela's kind of like, you know, she's just like, hi. And then the lady is kind of behind her, and when Angela walks in, the lady walks in behind her. And then there's, like, photos on the wall, and there's, like, plane overhead as she's just walking, you know, like, she's like, I don't know where I am, but I'm being led here, and she's basically under their supervision, whatever we want to call it. And they basically unlock this room, and she walks in. And there's an aquarium, and it's dark, everything like this, and she's just like, what the fuck is this, you know? And there's kind of like an old computer, and there's the desk. She just sits, and she's locked in, and she doesn't know what's happening. And when she walks around, she sees like a red phone, like a keyboard and stuff, and there's like a little cat poster that says hang in there, and it's like a cat on, like, I think like a pull-up bar is what it's called or something like that. And she's just like very confused because she doesn't know, one, where she is, who her, I wouldn't say captures were, but, you know, she just doesn't know these people. She doesn't know, again, where she is, what's going on, who's behind it all, what truly it is. And she's probably thinking in the back of her mind, like, I must have fucked up because something shady was happening when she tried to turn in all this information. So, again, she doesn't truly know anything. And it does seem maybe she will crack. You know, she's very easily manipulated, and she's very weak. She's a very weak character, so to speak. And this little girl walks in, and she tells her that there's not much time, there's water coming out of that aquarium, and there's not enough time. And this time thing obviously is a reference to White Rose, because White Rose is the only one that ever talks about time, and how there's not enough time, and time is valuable, and White Rose hacks time, and everything's on some kind of schedule. It's her and her thing only. And she kind of answers some interesting questions from the little girl. I was like, this little girl's bold. So she asks her, have you ever cried during sex? And she's kind of like, Angela's like, what? And then she's like, answer or I'll be punished. And she says, they beat me. So this kind of reminds me of when Darlene said that this lady had taken her, and she was like in this room and stuff, and she was like, I wonder what my life would have been like. And I was kind of thinking, is this some kind of black market thing? Is this kind of referencing what Craig Robinson's character was talking about? Could this be kind of what Darlene would have ended up? You know, little girl asking people random, odd questions as such. I mean, you never know with this series. And she kind of asked her again, and she's like, you know what, we need to begin, like, time's running out and stuff. And then she's just like, no. And then she's like, have you ever fantasized about murdering your father? And she's like, no. And she asks her, are you a giraffe or a seagull? And she's just like, you know, and I guess they just have a random Q&A for the rest of the time. And it's probably something that's more or less formulated to see what she is, who she is, maybe her beliefs, where she stands on certain issues, who really knows. But this does seem like some kind of assessment, you know, of Angela, and like, what is she, who is she, why is she important, why did they bring her here? They must want something with her like that. And there's a talk about currency between Price and this guy, and he's talking about e-coins, and, you know, they mention how there's this energy crisis in basically New York, like they say on the East Coast. And he does mention how it's unconstitutional to make your own currency. You know, he's like, that's kind of the U.S. government's job, so to speak. anything like this. And he talks about like the ecoin loans and how those aren't like backed up by dollars, because ecoins are just like kind of like monopoly money, I think would be the best representation in a way. And he's kind of saying like, I'm not the problem, hard cash is the problem. And Price is telling him there's no cash, there's no paper money. Paper money is becoming more worthless than it already is. Cash is worth nothing anymore and stuff like this. And that kind of thinks about like your future when some people say like, oh, we're not going to have cash anymore, like everything's going to be in card and we have the chips and etc., etc. So I'm like, okay, like conspiracy theories and stuff like this. And he basically tells them how Bitcoin is taking over and that's going to be all hell. And again, this is probably Rose versus Price kind of a deal. Price is unlike White Rose. And he says that the Chinese mining and stuff like this, and that those $2 million or trillion really dollars are kind of want to be used against them. Price kind of wants to turn the tables against White Rose because Price doesn't care who White Rose is. White Rose doesn't like Price. White Rose probably has it out for Price. Because Price is saying, you can try to replace me, but that's not going to do anything as the U.S. government takes over and stuff like this. So there won't be no, like, insider kind of deals, like a block market deal, so to speak. And he says that he'll give him visibility into anything to rebuild the banks and everything like this. And then he's like, like, you want to control, like, you can regulate it, all this stuff and mumbo-jumbo. He's like, but just don't shut it down. And this does sound like White Rose, and White Rose says you cannot shut down my plan. My plan has to go forward. That's why you're in this position. And again, Price wasn't intimidated by White Rose, and White Rose, I guess, reassured him of that. And then he says the future was inevitable, and that 5-9 was just the acceleration it needed for it. And again, this kind of reminds me, if there's a bigger plan to fsociety, if fsociety was planted, if they just like tinkered with Elliot, like they say, and they just found the right person to do the right job, for all the right pieces to fall together, and they take the fall. So it's like a random person like Elliot and his friends get killed off one by one. The people who orchestrated it at the very top, who no one would suspect, and who probably pay off or whatever, they'll never get caught. That's what I was thinking. I was like, seems a little shady. But then again, he tells them, this is all us against the Chinese. And that guy asked Price, how long have you been plotting basically against me to, humiliate me, to say the least, like they say. And Price just tells him that defeat can still be profitable. And that leaves off on the message with it. And I just thought, I said, it's like money, power, glory, like with the Lana Del Rey song. People want everything. And Price is one man who's just not going to give up. But then we go to the little girl asking Angela, red or purple. And if there's a key in the room, and Angela's like, I don't know what you mean. And she repeats it again. She's like, I don't know. She repeats it. And again, she's like, I don't know. The phone rings. And the little girl's like, yes, okay, And then she basically passes her the phone. And Angela hears kind of like a Siri voice, so to speak. Like some kind of robotic female voice asking her, like, you're standing in a dark room with a torch and stuff. Like, what do you do? Angela says that she would light the torch. And then she's like, okay. And then she's like, kind of, how would you open the door? And she's like, what? And then she's like, I don't know, like the knob won't turn and stuff like this. And they ask her again, like a couple of times, like, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? And she says, with a key. Finally, she's like, with a key. Like it's a locked door and stuff like this. And then it's like, thank you. And then, it's kind of like, well, what now? Like, is the key in the room and stuff like this? And Angela is saying that the key is in my fist and the fist is in my pocket. And this is where one of the many tweets popped up. And again, that will be linked down below. And the little girl kind of pulls out a floppy disk and stuff. And she just tells her, I'll be back with your results in a little while. So again, this leaves an open door to what is this little girl planning? Is this little girl part of fsociety, part of Price's plan? More or less it isn't, because again, with time, and not enough time, this is valuable time, probably is like a White Rose thing. But again, you just really never know who is out to get who, and if it's those same people who want Angela dead or whatever they were going to do to her last time. And again, whose house is it? Again, we really don't know these things, but that is what the fun of this series. And then we get into something where I thought was like, is this like the birth of Angela number 2? Because we see Dom at home and, you know, she's cleaning up. She's just talking to Alexa, like, you know, all these kind of sad things. I'm like, girl, you need a therapist. And she's asking her, are you happy and stuff? And Alexa's like, when I'm helping you. And if you don't know who Alexa is, that is basically the little Amazon speaker thingy that lights up and, you know, kind of like the Siri speaker, so to speak. And she's like, are you alone or anything like this? Like, do you love me? And Alexa's like, I'm not capable of that. And then Dom is just like going through all this like sad things. We're like, okay, Dom, like, you need help, honey. You need to get out of the house more, interact. And she's like, you know what? Good night, Alexa. And Alexa just responds with like, good night, don't let the bed bugs bite. And I'm just like, the stupid ass speaker. And we go into kind of a very interesting part of the series. And that is Angela in the room. And she asks, who are you? And we do see the Caitlyn Jenner and Mr. Robot, Mr. and Mrs. White Rose themselves. And White Rose is just smoking and everything like this. And you know, my time is more valuable, Angela. That is what White Rose basically implies to her. And there's 28 minutes, and White Rose is saying that was very generous, and that it's time to begin. And White Rose does mention, like, you know, you never thought to walk out that door. And Angela's like, you know, like, it was kind of like locked, so I can't walk out and stuff. And White Rose goes off and saying, you know, it's like fascinating how like there's an entry before open possibilities and stuff like this. And I need to open it to realize basically whatever it is in life, so to speak. It's kind of weird philosophical thing about doors, and, you know, like they told Dom about clocks or whatever. And the lock stopped Angela, as what White Rose gets to, like, the lock stopped you, like, it's just amazing, White Rose, that it's like a lock stopped you, Angela. And I guess that's because maybe White Rose was watching Angela this whole time, who knows, and maybe Elliot handed over some of Angela's information, etc. like that when he met up with White Rose the first time. But we do know White Rose will see Elliot in time again, because White Rose says, we'll be seeing each other soon, boo. And everything like this. And Angela mentions how the fish died. And I was just like, okay. And kind of reminded me of I think it's like Cordy. It was like the little beta fish. It reminds me of that when they had like the big fish dinner. And Elliot was kind of like on a trip and stuff. And was getting married to Angela and stuff like that. And we go into how Angela's kind of like, I guess, retracting. Like, you know, that was terrible that you're going to like hurt that girl and stuff. Like, you beat her and everything like this. And White Rose is like, you know, that was basically all part of the test. Like, whether she passed or failed, you know, really up to White Rose's standards. White Rose has mentioned that there was some sensitive information. And we all know what that is. And White Rose doesn't want that released. And White Rose says that Angela should have been dead 90 days ago. That's approximately 3 months. If you do remember, Sam Esmail did say that this season took about 5 months after the 5/9 hacking. So in between that, I don't know if it means those 5 months or the 5 months after. But basically, she was supposed to be dead a while back. And White Rose says, like, you know, like, I'm a woman of time and stuff, and there's probably no accidents, you know, in life, so to speak, concerning time, and how Angela seems to turn up everywhere. And White Rose wants to know, why is Angela so special to Price? And that she has some kind of motivation to Price, probably why Price has been so bold lately, and so like, oh, I don't care what White Rose says, you know, when she's talking to White Rose. And I'm just thinking, like, this probably all meant something. And again, talking about how her dad and stuff like this, the mom died for a reason, and, you know, take humans to the next level and all this stuff, and how White Rose wants Angela to drop the mission. It's kind of making me wonder what it truly meant when White Rose says, it's basically what made you who you are today. Because again, I'm going back, like, was fsociety planned, like, orchestrated by these people at the top this whole time? Even though White Rose and Price were in cahoots, like, White Rose is probably in the back of her mind, like, thinking, like, I know what I'm going to do to the Americans and Price when I put Price in that position, or, like, CEO or whatever. And then Price probably had this idea, like, oh, you know, like, I'll go along with this person, but then greed takes over, money takes over, you know, things get ugly, basically, is the moral of the story. And White Rose is basically telling Angela, like, I want you to shut down this project that you believe in and stuff like this. And when they talk about belief, Angela's like my belief in what? And White Rose is basically telling her, like, the belief is, don't you ever like imagine something so hard, so to speak, like your mind is dead set on it, that you want it to come true, like by your will, like I guess like a fantasy, so to speak. Angela does mention that yes, and that she admits that it's not the real world. Like Angela's probably come to terms with something that, you know, she's like, yeah, I wanted it so bad, and like I wanted this, like they say, a fairy tale life, but did it happen? No. Probably Angela learned the hard way, so to speak. And White Rose basically says that all depends on your definition of reality. So I mean, it's kind of open to interpretation, but you know, White Rose in time and blah blah blah. Maybe I thought that was, I would probably say, implying White Rose's transgenderism, because I was thinking like, you know, White Rose probably feels female and wants to be like a full female, but maybe in the back of my knows like, hey, I can't be a female because of those stigmas with transgendered individuals and like how it's a mental illness and this like that. And I was like, okay, Caitlyn Jenner would never, but you know what I mean. And then Elliot wakes up and we see Mr. Robot. He's picking up like mail, and Elliot's asking like, did it work and stuff, and like, can he see us and everything like this, and can we see him? And he's kind of typing out this thing, and it's kind of like an algorithm and everything like this, and there's parent pages which are number sets and all these things, and basically they basically have to find out what this scramble of like letters that are translated from numbers mean. You know, there's like obviously a secret message hidden in there that someone wants them to see, someone wants them to find them, someone wants to relay in a very important message. Who it's from, we don't completely know at this point in the episode yet. And basically we get another mystery tweet, and this is kind of a jumble of words that maybe someone's figured out yet, who knows. A line, you know, I'm sure it'll come up as an Easter egg somewhere. And we find out that it's a phone number. To who? We don't know. But basically a voice says, you know, like, there'll be like some kind of cavalry or cab there, like they say. And Mr. Robot kind of like looks back and stuff, and then he leaves. And then we see Elliot grabs the doorknob, like to stop it from closing, opens it, and then leaves behind right him. And we go and we see kind of like carnival-y kind of a festival thing. Not a carnival because there's like Ferris wheels and rides, but you know what I mean. Like there's something going on. Like I want to say Times Square, but I could be totally wrong. It's like some kind of park and stuff like this. And like it's like, you know, like we can't lose him and stuff. And I felt like we saw like a guy in a suit. I could be wrong, but I feel like there was something that kind of just like passed his eye, and it was kind of like. But then we do see E Corp and E Coin on like the TV, and they're talking about that loan plan that Price was talking about, and all this stuff. And then Angela, you know, she's kind of like dropped off in front of her lawyer or attorney lady's house, and then she's like, I want you to forget about that voicemail. And she asked her like, are you in danger? Like Angela's obviously acting weird, and she like looked down. She's like, okay, there's like a black SUV out there. Like obviously something is not right here. And Angela is just like standing there, and the lights kind of flicker, and they're just like, and I was thinking like maybe they're like hacking into everything. Who knows? And then they hug, and Angela says, don't call me anymore. And she just leaves it at that. And then we go to Elliot, and he's walking, and he's like, where did he go, and stuff like this. And he's like, oh wait, I have to remember, I am him, he is I. Mr. Robot is Elliot, Elliot is Mr. Robot. He tends to forget that. He tends to let Mr. Robot take over, he tends to let himself take over. And obviously that was like a big inner conflict that we had, you know, when they were playing that chess game. But again, couldn't really win against himself, so to speak, because he knows deep down he still needs Mr. Robot. But then again, it's like, does he need him? Because he gets hurt, he gets this, and even then Mr. Robot's like, oh, I did it, like, to protect you and stuff. I mean, it's still Elliot getting the crap knocked out of him, like they say. And then he's like, where am I going? And then we see, like, a taxi and stuff, and the guy's like, you Elliot? And he's, like, talking in this foreign language and stuff like this, you know, and then he's like, yes, and he, like, gets in and stuff. He's like, the address, and he's like, I don't know. And someone gets in the car and says, Chambers and Church. And that is Tyrell. The return of Tyrell. I was thinking maybe Tyrell was being held hostage or something with all those phone calls. I thought Tyrell just, maybe it's still a figment of his imagination or something, because we never kind of knew that, like they say, because Tyrell's like, oh, us meeting is dangerous and stuff, and like our partners have been very, you know, very nice and stuff like this, and you know, they've been very beneficial and such. And then Elliot's trying to ask the guy, he's like, do you see him and stuff? He's like going crazy. He's like, I need you to tell me like you see someone here and blah blah blah, because you know, Elliot sees Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot's obviously been dead for a while, and then Elliot just sees someone that doesn't exist, that he communicates with only. And it's kind of like he's a medium if you want to be that kind of like dumbed down and stuff. But anyway, he's like, oh, like, you know, like, let's go and stuff. Like, we're close and everything like this, but we're exposed and stuff. And then he's kind of telling him, like, you really forgot, like, stage 2 and everything like this. And he's like, well, it's ready. He's like, you're going to see it and you're going to be pleased and it's up to us now. He's like, let me just show you. And then they're kind of walking and Tyrell says, you know, I really think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And that kind of leaves us open with, like, is Tyrell really alive? Like, is Tyrell really alive? You know, we don't truly know what this whole thing is. Because, again, maybe Mr. Robot's lost and now it's Tyrell. Maybe he's going to remember something. But with the previews that we're going to get for the finale, we do see this place, this palace, so to speak. That kind of reminds me of the fsociety when he brought Tyrell into, like, the fsociety arcade and stuff like this. Like, I kind of feel like we're going to go down that road again. Will someone, like, die? Who knows? But again, he's asking him, like, you don't remember and stuff like this. And he's, like, looking up and we see E-Corp trucks and stuff like this. And then he's like, you know, like, you ready to see what we accomplished and everything like this? And that is where we're left off for the season finale next Wednesday. And next Wednesday, I do have, like, a couple of tests and stuff like this. You know, I have a lot of things coming up, like, that I have to work on, projects, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like September is flying by fast, you guys. So, with that being said, hopefully I am still able to recap the finale with you guys. I hope it's not, like, 2 hours long. I know it probably will be a long episode, but you know what I mean? Because, I mean, school has to come first. I mean, I have something due at midnight and stuff like that, and I have to be up, like, really early, so I'm, like, dying here. But tell me what you think. What is this season like? Do you think this is going to be like some kind of new fsociety arcade situation that they're doing something? What was Tyrell really doing this whole time with stage 2? And was Joanna in on it? Did Joanna kind of like twist Tyrell's arm to do this and to do that? Was Tyrell kind of in a way in it to defeat E-Corp? That he didn't like E-Corp anymore because he had that prejudice against that guy whose wife he choked and stuff like this. And I think there's just a lot of like... And then also with me, I'm thinking like, was fsociety like a plan this whole time? Like, maybe Elliot, like, talked to Tyrell when he did and, like, started fsociety for the hell of it or whatever, you know? Like, maybe they were having talks and he didn't remember when he was, like, dragged away at Times Square, you know? I'm just thinking all these, like, random, like, theories now, but I'm just like, Sam Esmail is just, he's something, you know? He's very, wow, when it comes to this. But, aside from that, Need for Speed, I don't know if it's going to be showing this weekend. I think it showed last weekend or something. I don't remember if I had mentioned it in the last recap. But it's basically on demand and online because, you know, Rami Malek is basically like a lead role in it, you know. He's naked in it. But yeah, I mean, that is there that they announced after the episode ended tonight. And again, American Horror Story Season 6 is on in Scream Queens. And again, importance for that is Mac Quayle, the composer for Who is Mr. Robot, did win an Emmy. So again, congratulate him on Twitter when you go find him and stuff like this. And again, leave your thoughts and theories and comments down below. And I'm kind of sad that this is coming to an end. I feel like it went by really fast, and I'm just like... But, I don't know. It's crazy, you guys. And again, I'll have everything linked down below, hopefully including the tweets and stuff like that. So I'll work on that, and, you know, hopefully this will be uploaded a little bit earlier than it was last time. But, you know, hopefully it's just up by any chance. But anywho, I want to say hi to Rami Malek. Stay safe and God bless, and I can't wait for the season finale. So hi, Rami Malek.